This is Marquivas Furious Nias, and you're listening to Deeper Than Music Radio.
Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. Deeper than music. Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. Deeper than music. Deeper than music.
What up, what up, what up? It's your man, Marquivas Furious Nias. Deeper Than Music Radio. Behind every great song, there's an even greater story. I like to say what's up to everybody listening to us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Cast FM, and all the other great podcasting platforms here on Deeper Than Music Radio. So here on Deeper Than Music Radio, we like to showcase well-known and also up-and-coming acts and just give you the insight on their creative process and what inspires them creating, and then the background on their music and their stories. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a R&B pop sensation here. Ian Guerin here is on Deeper Than Music Radio. Ian, how you doing?
Hey Marcus, I'm very happy to be here on the show. Thank you for having me. It's a real honor.
Oh, not a pleasure, man. I heard your music, and I gotta say, man, I know that you have a lot of ladies are your fan base, man. The music is on that level, R&B, smooth, silky, upbeat. So thank you for being on Deeper Than Music Radio. So my first question is, who is Ian and what is he bringing to music? What are you bringing to R&B and pop music?
Well, I think I'm bringing. First of all, I am a man who couldn't do anything else in music. When I was really little, my dad used to record me, and I was singing. And so when I decided that I wanted to have a recording career, which happened around the time that I was like 15 years old, I had recorded many demos of various pop artists, and the way that I figured out that I wanted to go into R&B was strange, because I recorded a pop record which is called Madsexy, and I released it in 2012, and it's actually the debut album of my career. And then when we went to rehearsal, I didn't like any of the music that we were rehearsing, and I just figured, like, why don't I like the music? I like to sing songs by Kim, by Charlie Wilson, by Whitney Houston, by Mariah Carey, by Ray Charles, by James Brown. And so I had an advisor back then who told me, if you want to cross over to R&B, do it now. It's probably going to be tougher, but if this is what you want to do, then you got to do it now. And so I decided to cross over and bring all the songs that I had written for girls that I gifted those songs to them because I didn't have any money. So I wrote them songs and I gave it to them. And I started recording those songs, and they never made it to the new album, to the Irreplaceable album. But I started developing like a flavor and a style very different. And I think that my producer used to say, well, the fact that you didn't grow up where the roots of R&B started is a con for you. And I said, no, I think it's a pro, because it's gonna allow me to have a different perspective on it. So what I brought to it is that I think that I tropicalized it in a way where I don't have that traditional way of structuring the songs. Instead, I bring like a country-like feeling to the mix of the melodies and the lyrics. I have really raw stories. I don't like, this romantic, cliche, traditional way of writing. I like to say things as they are, and I like to uplift. Even though it's a sad story, I like to bring an uplifting beat. So, because I've never been one for ballads that, that are heart-wrenching and then make you cry. And someone told me, like, well, people like to feel that way and they like to relate to those songs. But I was like, yeah, but I gotta see a light at the end of the tunnel, because when you're suffering, it's very hard for me to listen to music that will put me even more down. So I think that what I'm bringing to the table is that I'm bringing a style that doesn't necessarily come from within the roots of R&B, but it's like an outside look, looking in, if that makes sense.
So that brings me to my next question. So where are you from? So Ian, where are you from? You said that you're not
Hello?
from. Yeah. Where are you from?
While when I was younger, because my mom worked there, and so I went to school there, and that's where I got the first feel of the music that I wanted to do. And then I've been moving from LA to the Mayan coast because I like to live near the beach, and so I'm mainly in LA now. But I'm Mexican born. I'm from Mexico City, and well, the reason that I had to move my whole life to do the music that I do is because where I'm from, they don't understand the music that I do.
Okay.
And they're not necessarily driven to it.
So, like you were saying, you're from Mexico City. So, you're from Mexico, so it's not really R&B heavy. So I take it. So, what is the music of your where you're from the area? What is the flavor there?
Well, there's pop, there's rock, and there's then regional Mexican, which I particularly don't like, and they're very driven by beats like cumbia and very Latin flavored beats, urban music, like and mariachi, which is known around the world, but it was never the beats that attracted me. Like till this day, like I can stand it, but I won't enjoy it as much. And some people say, well, it's your roots, and I'm like, yeah, well, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the music that I identify myself with. I think the music is a universal language, and music knows no bounds. So I relate to the music because of how it makes me feel, not because of where it comes from. So that's why I decided to take the chance. It's been going well.
And who are your influences?
Yeah, sorry?
Who are your influences? Who influences you musically?
Oh, well, first and foremost, Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is my idol, my top person in the world, my favorite human being.
Okay.
Then Prince, Mariah Carey, Janet Jackson, as I said, Charlie Wilson, Kem. There's many others, Tyrese. R. Kelly. I know he's having,
his issues.
his day. Currently, but musically, I was very inspired by him. Before all these things happened, I liked him a lot, and he's a genius. He's a musical genius. He can be a terrible person, but he's a musical genius.
Yeah,
so,
and you have to respect that.
Now.
So I got queued up the song.
Of course.
I got the queued up Free Time. Can you give us the background story on Free Time?
Of course I can. Free Time is a super funny story because I actually wanted to write a song for Charlie Wilson to sing, and I happened to know someone who knew Charlie's management, and so I was so excited. I was like, I want to write a song for Uncle Charlie, right? And I want to pitch a song to him, and I was trying to come up with an idea, and then I was dating my neighbor back then, and I was like, well, I don't know what she's doing with her free time right now, but I'm thinking about her and mine, and I was like, whoa, there's a song in there, and so I just started thinking like, whoa, this is such a good line to go by. Like, I don't know what she's doing with her free time, but I'm thinking about her now. How can I make that into a song? And then it just like came to me. And I just said, like, I don't know what to do with your free time, but I think about you. And I was like, yeah, it's perfect. And I had the hook, and then I started doing the rest of the demo. But that's, like, mainly the story. And I always like to say that you maybe can hear some of the Charlie Wilson vocal mannerisms in my recording, because I recorded that song, like, professionally to pitch it to him. But after so many years of not being able to get in touch with him, my sister said, well, let's do a video and let's release it ourselves. Like, we can't have it there forever. And I was like, okay, let's do that. So, I love to tell that story because I know that someday, Mr. Charlie Wilson is going to hear this back. Someone is going to let him know, and it's going to be very excited. So I like to set that on record always.
So basically, Charlie Wilson's gonna hear that song and go, "Ooh wee." No, I'm just playing. But ladies and gentlemen, here on Deeper Than Music Radio with special guest Ian Guerin, here is Free Time.
This is Greg of Greg in Good Company, and you are listening to Deeper Than Music Radio.
Smile and go to this and that and come back over Twitter, read yourself with a guy, and damn, I wonder why. Then I think about the past, haven't put it all behind, but you is no longer mine. I don't know what you do with your free time, but I think about you. I don't know what you do with your free time, but I think about you, baby. When you're playing blackjack, when you're out with your girls, when you're taking a nap, I think about you. I've thought every line just in case I run into you. I picture myself, I picture you there, the way you be dressed, the time of the day, and how I behave. I know it sounds strange, but if there's no work, my mind goes insane. I don't know what you do with your free time, but I think about you. I don't know what you do with your free time, but I think about you, yeah. When you're playing blackjack, when you're out with your girls, when you're taking a nap, I think about you.
I know this love thing can be a scary thing, especially when the heart's been broken so many times before. Cause the last time you were asked to trust, all you got was pain, deceit, and all that bad stuff. I need you to trust me, so that one day, we two can say,
We found the love that we always saw another. I don't know what you do with your free time, but I think about you. I don't know what you do with your free time, but I think about you. When you're playing blackjack, when you're out with your girls, when you're taking a nap, I think about you. Still think about the past, haven't put it behind. Still think about the past, haven't put it behind. Still think about the past, haven't put it behind. So I'ma take this chance, I'ma kiss you tonight. Still think about when you're playing blackjack, when you're out with your girls, when you're taking a nap, I think about you. Every night when sun goes down, I stay up late to do my work. But with each break that I take, you come back into my head. I can no longer take it. It's so all this too crazy. But who do I fool? I said, who do I fool? I'm known for sure. I still love you. I don't know what you do with your free time, but I think about you. I don't know what you do with your free time, but I think about you, baby. You, baby. You, baby. You, baby. You.
Ladies and gentlemen, silky smooth. Like I said, he'll have Charlie Wilson saying, "Ooh wee." Back with Ian Guerin here on Deeper Than Music Radio, man. I love it. Nice song, man. Nice jam, nice groove. Definitely a hit.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I was just aiming to do a true song that came from the heart and that inspired people to just sing that to whomever doesn't pay enough attention to them. Because it happens to everyone. And this is something that I really, like to repeat a lot. I wrote the songs in this album for people who are longing and feeling lonely because someone else that they loved very much didn't have that same appreciation of love that they were giving. So, you know, I wanted to build it real, but I wanted to have like timeless elements too. You know, I think that's a common denominator throughout the record. You know, when they tell me like, why aren't you driven to the modern beats and to the modern trap hip hop kind of vibe that people are doing now? And I'm like, well, I just like traditional music, you know?
So I wanted to ask you a question as well, because the people that you named, Kim, Charlie Wilson, you like some grown folk music.
Yes, mainly. I mean, I do like pop records from various artists or rock records, but mainly I'm driven to more adult music. And yeah, that's an interesting choice of words because I never thought of it that way. But you know, I grew up with my father playing Van Morrison to me. You know, he was more of a rock kind of vibe. You know, with the Rolling Stones and Dr. John and all of those people. You know, but I'm driven naturally to, you know, the music of B.B. King and Nat King Cole and Tony Bennett and Diana Krall and, you know, Ella Fitzgerald. And, you know, I love that. And I love watching, you know, this people from the past tell their stories. Like there's a documentary about James Brown. I want to watch it 100 times to see what they have to say that he had to say. Oh. And the Quincy documentary, you know, and I'm like a sponge, you know, trying to take everything in. You know, because I love that vibe, and I love that. My advisor used to say, you know, always add timeless elements to your music, and what he meant by that was real instruments that can stand the test of time. And I think that what happens with modern music is that it's driven by trendy sounds. Yeah. So I don't want to be one of those artists that dies with the trend, you know. Because the music dies with the trend, and then the artist may also die with the trend if his music or her music is constructed entirely out of those elements. So
that's true.
You know, given the music that I like those influences to show, but I also want my songs, like when I was creating Irreplaceable, and I don't want to sound stuck up or like I'm comparing myself to that in any way, but you know, I did have this vision of Michael Jackson in my head. I remember him saying, like, I wanted Off the Wall to be a record that had all singles, all potential singles, no album fillers, every song to be a potential single. And with that in mind, I created Irreplaceable. Like, every song has to have something special that can make it a single. I don't want no album fillers, and I want every song to have timeless elements because I want this record to be heard 25 years from now and still be fresh. Like right now in the country, the #1 song in America is All I Want for Christmas Is You, which was released 25 years ago. And it's because it has all these timeless, it's because it has all these timeless elements. So I'm always thinking about that. And when I hear new artists, and they're my contemporaries age-wise, but I'm not driven to that. Like, I hear the new Selena Gomez record, and I love her. She's a sweet girl, and I think that she's wonderful, but I'm just not driven, you know, to that music it doesn't make me feel anything.
Mm-hmm. So, keep that thought in mind. I want to roll into another single that you brought to us here on Deeper Than Music Radio. Can you tell us the story behind the song Roll the Dice?
The story behind Roll the Dice is actually funny because I wanted to write like an R&B pop kind of song, but that sounded more popish. And Prince, this was back in 2016 when I was writing the record, and Prince had just released his final album, The Hit and Run Phase 2, which I suggest people go hear it. It's a masterpiece. And I said, okay, I heard sounds that I liked, and I started talking to our producer, like, how can we make this sounds our own? It ended up sounding totally different, but that was like the inspiration in my head. And the story behind Roll the Dice is that I was talking to the neighbor. It's funny because this is like 4 years after I wrote Free Time. As I said, Free Time was in the file for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And this is like 4 years after the neighbor that inspired Free Time reappeared in my life, and we started talking again. And so Roll the Dice tells the story of how I tell her the story of how I was with a girl that I didn't want to be with because I liked the sister better. And I remember writing the demo and recording that part where her sister was 10 times better than she. And then that was the day that Prince died. After I recorded that demo, I was going to come back to the studio the next day and change that line. And then when I woke up, Prince had died. So I took that day off. And when I came back to the studio after that day, the day after that, sorry, I remember thinking to myself, Prince wouldn't have cared. He would have told the story as it is. Because my sister was telling me, like, this is probably going to be like maybe a little bit I can't remember what she said. That it was going to be like it was going to sound wrong. Like she said, this is going to be inappropriate. So you should probably say something more subtle and more appealing. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come back. I'll change the line. But then when Prince died, I was like, no, I'm not going to change the line. This is how it happened. And I think I made a very respectable decision saying, hey, I just met your sister. I think I like her better. I'm going to break up with you, and I'm not going to date any of the two of you. So I think it was an honest thing to say and an honest thing to do. So that's the story behind Roll the Dice. I tell my neighbor the story of how that developed, and then I tell her, like, I'm gonna roll the dice and I'm going to take the chance with you. And well, that's basically the story. But the funny part is with the other two girls, that happened.
Yeah. So I got a feeling that this neighbor she inspired two good songs from you, right?
She inspired most of the album, and
Okay. So here's another song. Special guest Ian. Another song inspired by his neighbor. And also the purple one himself, Prince. Roll the Dice here on Deeper Than Music Radio.
What up, what up? This is Matt James, all the way from Canada. How's she going, eh? And you're listening to Furious on Deeper Than Music.
Hello, doll. How you been? Life hadn't given us a chance to speak. So right now, I'ma tell you a story. Sort of behind the scenes of you and me. Things that happened while you weren't here. Cause it's been a long time since you left, but I never got over it. I always thought we'd have another chapter. I promise not to mess up this time around.
Let me pick it up when we left it. I believe it was on my birthday of 2013. Remember that girl I dated, or whatever that was that faded. Her sister was 10 times better than she. Hundreds of days have since gone by, and you've since spent out my life. I still miss the way you used to say goodnight, and how everything you said and did had style, and the way you taught me the quality time. Can't be spending houses, cars, and restaurants, long as you always the one you like. So I'ma take a little chance and roll the dice. I'ma take a little chance and roll the dice. Now that you block me out, lift my pride. I'ma make my move and show you what you want. You know we ain't so rolled up, I'm rolled up. Now it's your turn to roll up. We're doing what you know, the universe is calling. Come on and roll him, roll him. Come on and roll him, roll him. Come on and roll him, roll him. Come on and roll him. Feeling with too many cause makes me lonely. I'm looking for your name in every vision from me. I'm tired of saying I love you, but I'm feeling for them. Sorry, well, no. I've seen my darkest days. I'm out, go past mistakes. I'm not the one you met. Come on now, fix it, yeah. I'm taking you out and showing you a good time. I know the man screwed you bad. That girl, those days are over. I'm here to treat you right. I'ma take a little chance and roll the dice. I'ma take a little chance and roll the dice. Let a chip put me on, lift my pride. I'ma make my move and show you what you want. You know we ain't so rolled up, I'm rolled up. Now it's your turn to roll up. We're doing what you know, the universe is calling. See, my mama made it clear. Love is only for the brave. Love is only for the brave. Love is only for the brave. See, my mama made it clear, and she's making no mistakes. Love is only for the brave. Love is only for the brave. take a little J&D and roll the dice. Now that you rock me, I'll risk my pride. I'ma make my move and show y'all what you want. So roll up, I rolled up. Now it's your turn to roll up. We're doing it together. The universe is calling us.
And we have another one, Ian Guerin, Roll the Dice. Another great, man, another great song inspired by the Purple One.
Thank you so much. Yes, it was definitely inspired by him. It was hard moments.
So I was just gonna ask you, man, what was your musical journey? How did you start off into this musical career? What was the start for you?
Well, I was 9 years old. I was in my aunt's house. I used to love to sing and dance and like do little performances with my sister, which she's actually in film. So we've always been driven to the entertainment business. But our parents aren't in the business, or any of our other family members. So at 9 years old, I was at my aunt's house, and we were playing karaoke, and I remember singing a song. I don't remember which one it was. And she said, "You can actually sing really well, honey." I was like, "Yeah, thank you." And she was like, "I'm going to make you a gift." And when my birthday came up, she took me to a recording studio and paid for some studio hours so that I could record a demo. And I was 9 years old, and I remember coming into the booth and thinking, wow, I love to be here. It was a feeling that I never got in school. Like, I hated being in school, and I hated doing homework, and I hated just the whole process. And I never liked it. Like, being in school was, to me, it was very hectic. I always had trouble with teachers. You know, I always had a good relationship with them because I was never a kid that said like, oh, this teacher doesn't like me or this other doesn't like me. I always had a very social relationship with them, a very good one, and with my classmates. But I didn't like, you know, the whole concept of homework and, you know, school assignments and things. And when I came into the booth at 9 years old, I was like, hey, I like coming to this place. I actually found at 9 years old a place where I wanted to be at. And I remember in October, I was on LA Talk Radio on a show called Sam in the Morning. And I remember it was really early and we had to drive really far. And I remember telling him, you know, this is the first time I take a shower at 5:30 in the morning to go somewhere that I want to be at. Because when I was in school, I never had that feeling. So when I was 9 and I was there, it was the first time that I said, yeah, I want to do this. Then things happened in my life that I started like drifting away from that idea, but I recorded a demo every single year, and I started writing songs when I was like 14 years old. I remember being really inspired by the sounds in the Invincible album by Michael Jackson, which I had just, it's a really good album, like one of my favorite albums of all time. And I remember being really driven by the sounds in Unbreakable, and I wanted to do something like that, and I started writing songs, and it was thanks to that. So then, like 2 years after, I met my producer, and we started producing my debut single, Bubblegum. But I turned to like the popish Justin Bieber kind of sound instead of what I really wanted to do, because everyone was telling me like, do this kind of music. You know, you gotta be like the pop sensation. And I'm like, I don't want to be a pop sensation. I want to be an R&B crooner. Thank you. You know, like, and finally with this album, with the Irreplaceable album, I'm living out my dream. And actually, a curious thing about this album is that the mix is modeled after the way they did the mix in the Invincible album. I wasn't trying to achieve like the same sort of mix, but like in how the vocals are mixed with relation to the music, and how the highs and lows of the EQ are done. You know, I wanted to have that very, very like metally kind of sound to it. You know,
So
this is
Ian,
how I just live my.
you could see that you're very inspired by Michael Jackson. As with all great interviews, man, we have about like 5 minutes left. But before we close the show, and again, thank you for being a guest on the show, I want to close it out with our last song that we have from you called Featuring Your Life. However, before we do that, I want to give you a chance for all the listeners that listen to you and like new fans that you gain, and they're like, hey, man, I like Ian, what he brings to the table. Where can people hear you? Social media, this is shameless promotion time, and what's in the future for Ian?
Okay, well, people can get a hold of me on social media by typing Ian Guerin on all streaming services, their favorite ones. Ian Guerin, and Guerin is Guerin. That's Guerin. Ian Guerin, or they can just type my name in on Google, and everything will pop up, and they can go to Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Deezer, Pandora. I'm everywhere, literally everywhere. Music is streamed or sold. You can find me there. And my social media networks are Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at I am Ian Guerin. I am Ian Guerin. And again, Guerin is Guerin because, it's a complicated last name. But you can find me there. And I'll see you on Instagram because it's the one that I use the most and I like the most. So if people want to head over to Instagram, but I'm over at Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. YouTube, my Vivo channel is Ian Guerin Vivo. You can just type in my name on YouTube. It's really very easy to find me, and the album is called Irreplaceable, and it's available everywhere. So thank you so much for having me on the show. I had a great time.
No, and not a problem. So Featuring Your Life, closing out, can you give us the story behind the music?
Featuring Your Life, I remember the Emancipation of Mimi album, and I remember hearing all this hard basses and guitars there, and I remember feeling that flow of some of the songs like Shake It Off, and I remember knowing that Shake It Off was produced by Jermaine Dupri, who had actually also done the Confessions album for Usher. And the Confessions single too. And I love that like piano-y, beaty kind of songs that actually R. Kelly had also with I'm a Flirt, the remix and all of that. And then when I finally was doing Featuring Your Life, I remember hearing Stevie Wonder and Snoop Dogg with that California Roll type of beat. And I said, I want to do a kind of like breezy, jumpy kind of song telling, my side of the story where I'm longing and lonely for the neighbor, which we've talked about before. So that's how. And I remember seeing myself in a magazine for a very first time in a print, and I remember thinking, "Wow, it's such a nice feature. If I can only have a feature in her life." And I said, "Whoa, there's a good song there," and I just started writing it, and all the words, are so real. Like I was trying to tell her, you made bad deals. You ended up with guys that didn't know your worth. So, doesn't it happen to everybody? So I'm like, you fool nobody. I fool nobody. We have done it before. We've been there before. And that's like the background of the story. Like we've been in situations with people that don't really care for us because we don't dare to be with a person that loves us and that we truly love. So we need to be featured in the lives of those people that are important to us. And that's what I was trying to tell her. So that's Featuring Your Life.
Awesome. So the neighbor needs royalties. But ladies and gentlemen,
she's not getting any.
We're closing out here with special guest Ian Guerin, Featuring Your Life, closing out another great episode of Deeper Than Music Radio.
To a real bad deal. Trade up the left for a part-time crush. I know you give her all, I got little to none, yeah. You've been there before.
Just one page or one spread.
Our answers all it takes.
One page or one spread.
Our love is editorial photo shoots in them concerts upstate. Yet set in the world, no need for you to be afraid. I need a feature in your life, baby. I need a feature in your life, baby. I never should have left, I'm sorry. I'm making no excuses for me. I'm willing to